Do you know where you are? You're watching Netflix, baby! You're wasting time! Worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Axel Enfuego here for Enfuegotainment. That's right, my namesake program. You can just call me Fuego for short. And I'm here to give a little bit of good, bad, and ugly. There's definitely a lot of the feo. That's right, bueno, malo, and feo. All about the dirt. That's right, the newest in a slew of biopics that we have coming down the pipeline. This one, courtesy of none other than Netflix. And as you can tell by my attire, you probably know where my 80s, just LA metal slash, hard rock, whatever you want to classify it as, allegiance lies. And so, yes, this is based on the memoirs, The Dirt, written by the band Motley Crue, and trying their best to dramatize and so on and so forth. But honestly, I've seen this story before. It was a pretty entertaining behind the music episode, and I saw it about 20 years ago. And so this is just trying to, in a more silly fashion, recreate a lot of that, courtesy of one of the guys who wrote Airheads in the Stone Age and then went on to write all the XXX movies, and the director of a bunch of different jackass shizzle. So there you go. As I said at the top of this, we always cover bueno, malo, feo, good, bad, and ugly here on Enfuegotainment. And so, a lot of ugly, a lot of bad in this. This is, it's essentially... It starts from the humble beginnings of these guys' careers in LA and then just basically scurries through everything in about 100 minutes. And we're talking, there's a lot of ground to cover in 100 minutes to get from, 81, where the film begins, and then it jumps back a little to, at least the childhood of Nikki Sixx, and then, or at least what he was, his birth name, what he was named at the time. And then we see the formation of the band, all happens very quickly. We see the rise to fame, all happens very quickly. And, all of the different jadedness of fame, and, the drug use, and the girls, and all this other crap. So I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not a fan of Motley Crue, and I always found that they weren't as glam as some of the stuff that came later, like the Poisons and the Cinderellas and stuff like that. However, they definitely weren't as hard as they made themselves out to be. Yeah, honestly. And, Vince Neil with all of his get in the ring stuff with Axel. Axel, I want to challenge you to a fight, blah, 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 blah. Stoops, man, Stoops. Those two little midgies never even got in the ring anyway. But lo and behold, I have to start with the bueno, and the bueno is the fact that I will admit, despite not liking Motley Crue and thinking Nikki Sixx is a crappy lyricist, he's a decent songwriter musically, And so for that sheer fact, I will admit that I like Home Sweet Home because of Hot Tub Time Machine. I like Kickstart My Heart, even though they're like, I'd say we kicked some ass and all that. That was in like a driving game, I think, that I used to play back in the early 2000s at some particular point. I even like Livewire, I guess Shout at the Devil and Looks at Kill and all that stuff. I know they started out a little more hard edge, but then and you see the whole transition of them just getting more popular and glossier and more mainstream. I mean, they were very much like, I don't know, Shout at the Devil was definitely more along the roots of like Kiss. But yeah, they basically eventually became Kiss without the makeup, which Kiss eventually did in the 80s too. So hey, what are you gonna do? I happen to like Lick It Up a whole lot better. At least Kiss kind of felt like they were in on the joke. I don't know, I never really got that vibe that the Crew understood how much of a joke they became as time went on, and Dr. Feelgood and all that, just, ugh, God. I mean, Straight Shooter and all that crap, and the choruses are so just repetitive, which a character even says at one particular point in the movie. So, but yeah, bueno, I like a few Crew songs. I don't think Machine Gun Kelly was as bad as a lot of people are saying that he sticks out like a sore thumb in this movie, like he feels out of place. I don't personally think so. I actually thought of the four members, Tim and McMars, the actor who played McMars, gave it. And you know what, even the Nikki Sixx dude was not bad. I don't mind Nikki Sixx in real life, nor do I particularly mind Tommy Lee and Mick Mars, great guitar player, honestly. And it sucks knowing the different, you know, stuff that he's been afflicted with, going around with the cane and everything. I guess Vince Neil, when you look at how he's aged compared to the rest of the band members and stuff like that, hey, I guess that's the biggest correlation of all. I just don't like Vince Neil. Never liked his vocals particularly. And yeah, so, but Bueno, I guess the performances of everybody, and even the Vince Neil character, I will say, he has a couple scenes in the third act that are of the more dramatic variety, and he sells them fairly well. It's some family stuff, but really as a whole, this movie is silly and stupid, and that's why I have to segue into the malo and the bad, because there's a lot of bad in this movie, man. There's a lot of bad in this movie. It's like, oh man, you don't leave your girlfriend alone with Motley Crue, because Motley Crue will your girlfriend, man. And I guess just for the sheer fact that these guys were such sleazy scummers and stuff like that. I mean, I know. Everybody was getting ridiculous amounts of tail in the 80s, but it wasn't just the sunset strip guys, y'all. You know, and I know my beloved Guns were doing the same stuff. They were doing heroin and shooting up and all that other stuff. Both Nikki Sixx and Slash died at particular points in the 80s, and so there was a competition between the two bands and whatnot, but you know, like I said, I knew all of these beats from the behind the music, and so it's not like anything was coming at me in a particularly, you know, just surprising fashion. And beyond that, so much of it was like portrayed in such a goofy fashion at most of the times that the dramatic bits didn't hit anywhere near as hard as they could have because of that fact. And I mean, it felt very low budge to me. It felt like something that should have been a made-for-TV movie on VH1 Classic. This did not feel theatrical at all. You know, it's just, oh, it's on Netflix because of the fact that they can show tatas and, you know, sex and, you know, needles and doing blowjobs under the table. You know, just all kinds of silliness, dropping F-bombs like mad. And dude who was dating Ariana Grande as the Elektra dude, he wasn't particularly anything to write home about or interesting. Now, the guy that they did have play the manager, who I recognized from the Flight of the Conchords as Mel's husband, he was okay, you know, I guess. And but man, as a whole, this movie just, it's not funny, and you see the jackass, you know, kind of, you know, bits here and there where they're like, oh, they're Motley Crue, they just like to raise hell for the hell of it because it just felt so cliche and so poser and so just, man, it's not particularly funny. Now, I did like where they broke the fourth wall. I mean, honestly, like one of my favorite scenes that I thought was like epitomized the ridiculousness of this band was where Machine Gun Kelly is breaking the fourth wall and he's talking about what a day in his life at the height of their popularity consisted of, where he awakens handcuffed to the bed and then he just basically, he goes, he plays the show, you know, has a couple drinks beforehand, has a couple drinks after, he's hyperventilating, so he needs the oxygen from them spinning the cage around. Then he goes to, they get on the plane, you know, they're doing blow and heroin and drinking on the plane, then they go to the nearest strip club, he's barfing at the strip club, like all these different things. I mean, I don't know, I guess man, just such sleaze and such trash, and I know that that's what the book was all about. I know that this is a band that just like, they wore it like a badge of honor, the fact that they were Superman whores, the fact that they were super druggies, the fact that, man, we went through hell and we came out and blah, blah, blah. It's like every rock cliche that you can think of, especially from the hedonism of the 80s. But, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just that none of it was really executed in a very sophisticated fashion, but would you expect anything sophisticated from a band like Motley Crue? I don't know. If I'm going to segue into the Feo, into the ugly, there is one good ugly cameo, and it's the guy who plays Ozzy, and it's where they were opening up on the, I believe it was the Ultimate Sin tour that they were opening up for Ozzy, and I think Ultimate Sin is a very underrated Ozzy album. You know, Thank God for the Bomb, and I mean, and everybody knows Shot in the Dark, but the title track is awesome. You know, there's some decent stuff on there. Killer of Giants is another. I mean, there's all this stuff about possible nuclear war. I think it's underrated. Jakey Lee is a great guitar player. And at least those lyrics, you know, at least Bob Daisley, I believe, was still writing the lyrics, even if I don't think he was playing bass for them anymore. But anyway, they went on this big notorious tour with Ozzy, and the ugly is the pool scene. lapping up pee and all this other ridiculousness. Although Ozzy going around and saying, "Here, I'll pay for your drinks," and he's like mooning everybody. He's got money coming out of his ass. That was funny. But the ugliness really is the fact that I almost feel like they did kind of try to glamorize just being terrible people. They almost made it seem cool to be pieces of crap like these guys were in the 80s and stuff. And so I don't know, it's just ugly seeing them banging each other's girlfriends and, you know, just all the sluttiness and the sleaziness. It's not funny and it's not endearing, at least to me. Maybe it is for you, I don't know. But yeah, I've always found the Crue to be a very fluff band from that era, despite the fact that they were one of the forefathers, despite the fact that I know they were a lot more influential than, you know, the Poisons and the Cinderellas and whatever that came after them. But I don't know, give me somebody later in the movement like, you know, GNR or Skid Row, or give me somebody early in the movement, you know, like Quiet Riot, or even like Rat, for God's sake. You know, Rat had a similar aesthetic to the Crue, and their stuff was fluff and the lyrics were kind of dumb and stuff. But I don't know, man. Or even give me some Dokken. I've just never been a fan of the Crue, and yeah, I guess you can tell by my attire. This movie has a lot of ugliness on display. I don't know. It's the R-rated equivalent of, you know, what you got in Bohemian Rhapsody. It doesn't bring anything particularly interesting, new, novel, or whatever to the table, despite the fact that they're Motley fucking Crue, man. Yeah. So, in any event, guys, sorry if I have offended you fans of the Crue, but tough titties. It is what it is. That's just the way I feel. And perhaps maybe if I was really like on Motley Crue's nuts, you know, they were resting on my chin, it would be a different story. But I've actually talked to a lot of friends who love the Crue, and they also shared my sentiments here. Anyway, yeah. But they've got a few okay songs, I suppose. But what the band stood for and what they were behind the scenes and all that other stuff, I don't know, I was kind of surprised they went as far as bringing in Karabi and all that other stuff. But hey, you know, it is what it is. There's a reason they, you know, got back together for Generation Swine, and then, you know, people were still selling out shows with them up until they decided to retire. And but yet they still put out a couple new songs for this, including a horrible, ugly cover of the Madonna Like a Virgin. So in any event, I'm sick of talking about Motley Crue. I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. That's right, where you're watching me here right now. Make sure to ring the bell, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Tomorrow, the trash weekend continues because you're going to see a review of my thoughts on the new Matthew McConaughey stoner comedy, but it's not funny. It's called The Beach Bomb. So yeah, I'm going to call this like Trash Weekend or something like that, or, you know. In any event, I'm also covering all the Star Wars movies this year. I've done episodes 1 and 2. I've also done the Clone Wars film, and I did all 8 of the Best Picture nominations, and I do a couple new film reviews every single week, usually on a Thursday or a Friday, unless like a cool trailer pops up that I want to discuss. So also, if you want to see me covering spectacular stuff, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel is where you will find spooky trailer reactions, TV, movie, and comic reviews, convention coverage, video game Let's Plays from the rest of the team. You name it, lots of rad stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go listen to some Guns N' Roses, probably Use Your Illusion, because that's actually a band that can write good lyrics. So in any event, I've been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all have been badass, the Crue or not though. And until the reel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, Cinemigos and constant viewers. I hope that we get to reconnect sooner rather than later. And until that instance transpires, adios. Stay metal. Oh, bows.